Kawakami wrote a piece or tweeted it out about the Niners' full-on hatred and reluctance to deal with the AstroTurf or field turf. And obviously their most famous player, Nick Bosa, when it comes to turf, got injured at MetLife, had done a long talk with Albert Breer, like a Q&A over the summer. And Breer in his MMQB, which used to be Peter King's, he runs, it's actually kind of easier to consume now. He like breaks it up into parts. You don't have to read like the 7,000 pages. So you can just
I was
pick and
wondering
choose.
why
Like,
I was having
you can just click on like the 10 things, like boom.
Yeah.
And wrote that would the 49ers, again, this is several days ago before we knew severities of injuries, even though beside Trent, none of them really had lower body injuries. Would they sit guys in Minnesota, which I didn't know this, but he wrote this, is the last turf field that is not the higher end turf field. The other teams changed this offseason. Minnesota is going to change in 2024. Still a little unsure why you couldn't pull that off during a week, but I don't know.
The Niners replaced turf between games a few weeks ago.
So it's just clearly maybe they're waiting for a sponsorship deal to kick in, save a little money. But this to me, from a big picture standpoint, even if you remove the Niners, I think speaks to the power of football. If this was baseball, 100% the guys would not play. Whoever your question mark with the game, you would sit them for the series. We know for a fact, I don't give a shit how Adam Silver's saying he's going to find. If you have any question mark with a player in the NBA, not only doesn't play, he doesn't even travel. It's like, I'll just go home, man. We'll see you in a couple days. Have a good time.
Meet you in Cincinnati.
Yeah, shit. Private jet to Vegas and meet us in Utah if you want. If not, we'll see you in Phoenix. You tell us. The checks are still coming. In football, it just doesn't really roll like that. The other thing is, Kyle talked about this last year, maybe to Tim after they, like the offseason, they had an interview, and Kyle's like, it's crazy how you think about things in the offseason, a play here, a play there that lost us a game during the regular season that could have been a home field advantage, right? And one thing we see right now with the Eagles, who have a pretty crazy schedule coming up, a lot of Cowboys, a lot of Bills, a lot of Chiefs. But then I also
Miami
think
this week,
the Miami and the Chiefs, they also, when they look at their schedule, that's their toughest or one of their toughest games, right?
Yeah, that's Sunday night game this week is Miami Philly.
That's pretty good. But I just don't think you can afford NFL teams don't think like that. If a guy is healthy, he's going to play. And in fairness, like the most famous and important player in the NFL in terms of brand name, we could argue both now that Travis Kelce's dating Taylor just played at the place, right? Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Now Travis Kelce got hurt on it, came back, scored a touchdown. But if the guys are healthy, they're going to play. It's just the way the NFL works, right? This is not the other sports. And the game is too important to the overall. Maybe if you were undefeated, you could wave a white flag on a game, but now that the Eagles lost, the Lions aren't losing. All of a sudden you look up, in a couple of weeks, you could be the 3 seed, right?
Yeah. The Browns game, the Eagles lose. You go, all right, takes the sting out. That game can bite you real fast if you lose again, or if Christian McCaffrey's not healthy and you lose again, or if you hit the bye and you come out of it not healthy, or you lose to whatever the case is. You lose to you beat Minnesota, but you lose to Cincinnati coming out of the bye. Well, I guess they're coming out of the bye. You lose Cincinnati in 2 weeks, right? Just like the Browns.
The Bengals are on a bye this week.
Yeah, so it's going to be the second out of 3 teams the Niners have played coming off the bye, right? The Browns are coming off the bye.
And they're on a short week, right? Because they're playing Monday night on the road in Minnesota.
Yeah. So that's
a sneaky big advantage, Cincinnati.
It's a big, and remember when we talked at the beginning of the year, like in the offseason when the schedule came out, that was one of the big things for the Niners is they lose a lot of days with opponent bye weeks. Now the Niners play the Jags off a bye, but the Niners are off a bye. The Niners play Arizona at Arizona. Arizona's off a bye, and that's their other bye game. But they play Seattle. Seattle's going to have an extra 3 days rest when they play Seattle in early December. So that's part of the schedule, remember. And that's why, you do want to come out of that Minnesota. I agree with everything you said. The NFL does not manage like that. And you don't have enough bodies to play that way either, right? The step down from, okay, we're just going to hold Christian and Debo out, let's just say, if they were cleared to play, it's a big step down and you might lose the game. And if you lose the game, then it may not matter how healthy they are at a later point in the season. You may be in a bad spot. You may not be at home. Like all these other things come into play. You may be, because you lose the game, you may end up on turf in the playoffs. Who knows? So, I agree. I don't. You can't really do it.
I pulled up Seattle's schedule because they play the Niners on Thursday night on Thanksgiving,
right?
And then you know how the NFL always double dips. Then they go their Thursday night game the following week is two teams that just play on that Thursday, so they just play a full week. They play the Cowboys, and then the 49ers play them a short week, but they're coming off a 10 game,
and the Niners are coming back from Philly before that second Seattle game. So this is like. It's tough, right? Because you go, this actually, you do need to manage health. It's really going to matter. But we've never seen anyone in the NFL manage health in that way, with the exception of he's like a player coming off an Achilles. We're not going to play him on the turf, right? But that's not this. Like, the one you and I were talking about it beforehand, baseball, you would see it. Baseball plays 162 games. Not even a fair comparison. But baseball, you would see sometimes old, like Evan Longoria, we're not going to play him in Toronto on the turf. We're going to keep him off his feet, or he'll play one game. Josh Donaldson will play one game on the turf, and we'll DH him the other 2 days. You see some of that.
Did you know Evan Longoria's on the Diamondbacks?
I did. Yeah.
They put up the lineups. I saw this thing on television at the beginning of the season. He had like a ride around with one of their like chicks, sideline reporter types, but it wasn't baseball related. And I knew I wouldn't have remembered, but he was also the starting third baseman when they played the Phillies in the World Series back in the day, like 2008, when he was on Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And they beat him.
Well, I watched
and they put up the two lineups. It was like Ryan Howard, Utley, all those guys, and then this crew.
That's cool. Here's the other thing. Who's to say, if you told me Debo has an injury that is turf sensitive, okay, maybe. Debo's got, he's dealing with plantar fasciitis. Okay. He's got a shoulder that I guess if he lands on it again, it'll hurt again. I think we're waiting on the MRI results still here on Tuesday on McCaffrey, but it's an abductor. It's not a groin.
There was news that came out that said he was fine.
Yeah, I know.
They're all day today.
So, if you told me he had a groin, if you told me McCaffrey had a groin he was managing, I would still be on your side, but like we could have a discussion about turf and a groin. This injury, it's now, how about like, what do you do with Dre Greenlaw, right? How is he? And is his hamstring going to be a factor playing on turf? I'll tell you a guy that's got to play this week that I'm on alert for. Who do you think? Elijah Mitchell. Like Elijah Mitchell, I'm on alert for this week. Now he's playing. Like you need him. I hope the turf gets him up to speed.
Do you?
But like watch for, huh?
Like
you need him?
I'll be honest.
I'm kind of in theory what Elijah would be if right now he's just rusty and you need to get him up to speed. Like in theory, that guy is a good player, right?
I'm ready to see some Ty Davis Price. Like he's just been injured so many times. Feels like he's going the wrong way. Now you could argue that last week was just you're running into a buzzsaw of a defense that thinks they're like the 2000 Ravens. They sure acted like it, and they played like it. They literally have the best lowest yards per game and lowest yards per attempt and lowest all these stats since like 1971. It's pretty crazy. Like the purple people eaters. But I don't know. I mean, running backs, let's churn. No one really at this time last year knew who Mason was. By the end of the season, like, God, Buck Mason's pretty good. You watch him now, it's like that guy's a legitimate rotational running back. He plays faster. He gets more downhill.
He does.
To me, it's a no-brainer. If McCaffrey can't go in a game, he would go. I would like to see some Ty Davis Price. I know they were happy with him in the preseason. I know coaches like, well, he can't pass block. Well, then don't ask him to. Dial up 3 or 4 plays.
Maybe but you have to act. I mean, if McCaffrey's healthy, then you're basically activating
Yeah, no. If McCaffrey's healthy, then I'm saying
Keep
if
it
he
the way it
can't
is.
go in
Yeah.
one of these games,
Yeah, then all three of those guys are active.
I would like to, and you see this at that position a lot in the NFL. Sometimes when those guys get the shot, they get it because it's hard in the NFL, unlike the NBA or baseball. Like in baseball, he's like, you're just going to get all the starts this week at left field because a guy's injured, right? In basketball, it's like this guy's dealing with a little knee. Instead of playing your typical 6 minutes, you're going to get to play 30 minutes for the next 2 weeks. And all of a sudden you're like, God, this guy's much better. In football, it takes an injury sometimes before the guy's just sitting on the sideline next to the coach because it's hard to impress. Coaches love saying like what we saw in practice. I think that's a lot of hype. Like they go in with their mindset. I'm not saying that you can't impress in practice, like with the game plan and stuff, but he's in a spot right now. It's very hard for him to improve, to show that he's ready until an injury and he gets a spot. Because they drafted him a couple years ago high to play, and he just doesn't get to play. Now, part of it is you get an undrafted free agent like Mason, who's fucking good. That's part of football. But I would like to see this guy just get some run. And maybe he's not good enough. What's his name from Oklahoma and Ohio State wasn't good enough. He goes to the Eagles, not good enough there either. That's football. It's hard. The margin for being good and average at running back is very slim. Like why is Mason better than half the running backs in the NFL that can't really play? It's just a half step. It's just it's a courage he has. I don't know.
It's a feel he's got. Yeah.
Yeah. I watch Mason in the SEC trucking guys. Ty Davis Price. And this is always the push pull with coaches and in front offices. So can we see this guy?
Right.
And I get it. If McCaffrey's healthy, of course, you just give him 7 million carries a game.
But we have the McCaffrey experience we've gotten a little everything in the year that he's been a Niner. And part of the experience is there have been multiple games where it's like he's hurt. He tries to go. This is like Christian tries to play, right? Like all these guys do. I mean, Ayuk did it. Trent just straight up does it.
All around the league. I mean, it's the NFL.
And then he tries, and then it's usually when he tries and he can't do it, he gives you like the run he had the other day was a good run when he came back in, and there was a penalty. I think Trent Williams. It was kind of a sketchy holding call, and then that was it for Christian.
I would say this: just watching a lot of football this year. I guess I watch a lot of football always. He runs a physical style. Like you watch the Saints, like Alvin Kamara is kind of juking around, getting out of bounds. You watch a lot of these players, they kind of pick their spots. They are treating him, and he treats himself like it's 1993. Like he does run with an old school. I have a newfound respect for him. I knew clearly I was wrong on my evaluation of him coming out of college, but by the time he became a star in the NFL in Carolina, it was clear he was a really good player. But until you really watch a guy, I was watching every Christian McCaffrey snap in Carolina. He is the physicality to his game, and it's just,
yeah.
His
runs out of bounds. Nothing ends soft, right?
No, so it's just, he's, historically he's been injury prone, but are the couple instances you talking about? Is that the old Christian coming in, just that he can get injured, just like any player, or is it just his style is more conducive to just getting banged up? I mean, every game he's got blood all over the place. You watch a lot of NFL football, you don't see that many players with blood everywhere. He's got blood everywhere.
Every week.
Every week.
Can we
it
close
looks like
up
some
his
of
elbows?
those those 80s highlight videos with John Facenda and talking about Al Davis and guys who's had blood everywhere. You don't see that anymore. Everyone's too clean.
And every week they're like, well, let's see. Maybe this is the week that these little sticky papers will keep Christian's elbows clean. And it's like, no, not the week. Bleeding all over the place.